financial education. And first of all, I have to beg your potential forgiveness. I know my material really well, but I'm not a polished spokesperson and educator. So if I tend to fumble a little bit tonight, please forgive me in advance. That being said, if anywhere along the way you have a question, this is not a lecture. I want you to just interrupt and ask that question. And Wilson, if you see somebody, that wants to say something, just don't be polite. Just stop me and let's get this to be as a valuable session as possible. So the company I am with is called WealthWave. WealthWave is on a mission to eliminate financial illiteracy in this country. It is an epidemic, and it was there before COVID. It will be there after COVID, but it's a silent epidemic. And you'll hear more about that in just a little bit. If we can get our financial house in order, most of our problems just melt away. And so we just don't pay lip service to that mission. We are totally committed to it. The principals in our firm have written a book, and I'm just going to show this to you real quickly so you have a visual. It's How Money Works, Don't Be a Sucker. And the classes that we have created, which can be done live in person, or they can be done Zoom, are all based on the content of that book. What we're going to do tonight is an overview, so a very quick view of what it looks like to be financially literate and what are the building blocks of a good financial plan. Our company's roots are in the hearts of middle-income American families. My industry has too long ignored middle-income families in favor of those who only have a significant amount of wealth. We don't care about that. We don't care if you're in debt, if you had never started savings, if you have $1 million in the bank, or if you got $1,000 in the bank. Everyone's got to start someplace. And so that's our goal. And just to kick things off a little bit, I want to play a short video to show, it's like 1 minute and 20 seconds. It's going to present the impact that this book is having across the nation. And it just was launched December of 2019. So it's like 13, 14 months old. Oh, we got a question? Is that a hand up? Oh, okay. And already there's nearly 600,000 copies in print, and we've only scratched the surface. So I'm going to go ahead and just play this. If you can't hear it, flag me down and let me know. All right, it's
push play.
Yeah, it's just not responding. Love these technical difficulties. Let me see if I can. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, it's coming. Okay, the voice. Yeah, the words are not coming through. Let's see. Check the volume.
The words are coming through?
No, the words are not coming through.
Okay, let me do this. I'm sorry, you guys are just champs. I told you there would be issues. Well, let's try this again. And tell me if you can hear it, Wilson.
More than 5 billion people around the world continue to struggle with money and financial illiteracy.
It's Madison Avenue manipulation, right? It's been going on for years and we buy into it.
How bad is financial illiteracy? It's not taught in school, so people don't know this naturally, right? So you grow up not knowing anything about it, you make a lot of mistakes along the way, and we're hoping to educate them and teach them how money really works so they can learn the cause and effect of all this.
And it doesn't have to be generational.
Exactly.
No,
Exactly right.
break that cycle.
Once you understand the basics of financial literacy, it changes your life. The secret is financial literacy. I mean, teaching your kids how money works. I think it's really understanding how money works. Once they understand the basics of how money works, they shouldn't have to struggle for very long.
Steve Siebold and Tom Matthews are the authors of How Money Works. Stop being a sucker.
Money means possibility. It means opportunity. It means freedom. Things you've always wanted to do. Dreams that you have. Money makes it possible. You know, of all the interviews we've had in the last 6 weeks, I'm actually most encouraged by that one.
So I share that with you, not because I'm trying to sell books. You know, and in fact, if you would like a book, it's yours for free. You just need to ask. But I want you to understand a couple things. One, we're taking financial illiteracy really seriously. And two, most people, when you talk about money or when they talk about money, it's not a pleasant subject. There's an anxiousness and angst that people feel when the subject of money comes up, because you know what? There simply typically isn't enough money by the end of the month. Typically, people have more month than they have money. And that is a very strong symptom of the issue that we have with financial literacy. If people understood how money worked, that problem would go away. So that's the foundation of you know, the importance of what we want to talk about, what I want to talk about today. And so we're going to just get right in it here. So this particular course is a summary of two basic courses, Financial Security Part 1 and Part 2. And in Part 1 we cover you know, the basics of the understanding of how money should be working in your life. And then the Part 2 is what the basics of a good financial plan looks like in concept. So you're going to get a full dose tonight. So, you know, we want to think like the wealthy, because the wealthy understand how money works. We do not want to think like a sucker when it comes to your money. Now, the upside of this is that you don't have to be wealthy to think like the wealthy. You just need to understand how they think and what their behavior is around money. And once you understand that, then you can start changing the life that you really are living to the life that you want to lead. You know, the word sucker is a really strong word, and we use it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but not knowing how money works, it sucks in every different way. It sucks up your time. You know, we've all heard time is money. It sucks up your freedom because you can't do the things that you want to do for your family. And it sucks up your income because you typically pay more than you have to for the services that you are acquiring. And you know, we just need to end that sucker cycle. It's interesting. When was the last time, just ask yourself, when was the last time you were in the teller line at a major national bank? And when you walked up to that teller line, what did they have at the teller window? Usually they have a little container of suckers, right? And if you pull a sucker out and you look at the manufacturer, typically 75% of the time it's a dum-dum. Does anyone catch the irony in that? The banks are handing you a sucker, and the sucker is a dum-dum. You know, could that possibly be what, you know, they think about their clients? Are they really in business for their clients, or are they in business for themselves? You know, you just got to wonder that. And here's the challenge. 30% of people in the world are financially literate. 70% are not. And Americans fare no better. 44% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency without going to a credit card. 43% of student loan borrowers cannot make their payments on time. We have almost $10,000 in average revolving credit card debt, which generates nearly $40,000 in interest paid over 30 years. What could you do? Now that's on top of the principal of $9,000. What could you do with an extra $40,000? Heck, that's a down payment on a home. You know, that's buying 10% more home than you could buy. Or maybe it's the difference between moving from an apartment into a home. It's just making smart money decisions. 33% of American adults have no retirement. Zero. So, you know, what happens when they get to retirement age? Well, you know, Walmart's always an option. McDonald's is always an option, right? But it's really not an option. It's survival. Now, here's the bright spot. When I started in this business, I was sharing the statistic that only 6 out of 50 states had any kind of required high school education in personal finance. It is now up to 21 out of 50 states, which is a good thing. But it's a bad thing because there's still 29 states that don't have anything. And you know, what's the content of those courses? This is a sucker cycle, you know. So much money kind of just floats out of our pockets without us even knowing about it. It's that blow money that we get $20 at the grocery store, or wherever it is, and that's the money we have for the day. We spend, and I think these numbers are way conservative, especially eating out and takeout. I think that's gone up during COVID time, but $180 a month in takeout, rideshare 83, subscription services 240, lottery tickets. I don't even want to talk about lottery tickets. That's a fool's errand. Coffee and lattes. I think this is really small. I know folks who go every day and get a $5 to $7 cup of coffee, and you add that up. 7 times 5 is 35, times 4, 70, $140 a month on coffee. And then alcohol. Well, again, I think for those who drink, that's a small number. So we have all sorts of money leaks, and if we can just identify those money leaks, establish some personal control, we can start to take control of our lives, financially, that is. Now, this whole savings income thing is like flying an airplane. So when you're working, like today, we're all working, right? We're flying on 2 wings, okay? The outline on the right, that's our personal income. And on the left is the combination of our Social Security earnings building and hopefully any kind of a 401k plan that we're contributing to at work. But what happens when we get to retirement? Again, most people don't have any savings, and what savings they do are just simply not enough. Social Security was never designed to be a total replacement for your income in retirement. At best, it was 40%, and it's going to get worse. Now, Social Security will always be there, right? Some people project doom and gloom, when I get to retirement, Social Security is not going to be there. It will be there, but it's not going to be the way retirees see it now. They're going to push out the retirement years because people are living longer, so you have to work longer or wait longer, and they're going to reduce the amount of increases that you get, and they're going to tax even more Social Security contributions. They're already taxed if you make X amount of dollars too much, but that number is going to go up. So, that's a decreasing element of your retirement package. On your 401ks, if you just spent the 401k without regard to running out of money, even if you're living on, $30,000 a year, that's going to last 6-7 years. But what you typically would do is you take the earnings off that $195,000, say 5%, and that's only going to generate about half of what you need. And so if you don't have that personal savings component, your retirement is not going to be financially secure. It's not going to be a fun time, and you're going to continue to struggle. But the good news is we have time to change that. If we don't work all 3 legs of the stool, this is what retirement looks like. There's a huge shortfall, which is personal savings. So you either have to go back to work in retirement, or you have to significantly reduce your financial needs, which could mean, home sharing, like you did in college? Or is it, just fresh out of home, you had roommates? Well, in retirement, do you want to go back to having roommates just to pay the bills? Most people would say absolutely not. This is what it should look like. You should have the combination of 401k, Social Security, and personal savings to reliably take you to just a strong retirement and an income source that will not run out. It will last as long as you do. That's the goal. That's what we're all working for. So how does all that happen? It starts with an understanding of how money grows. Now, there are two ways that money can grow. Compound interest, which is probably a term that we've all heard, but maybe few of us really understand, and simple interest. So let's kind of delve in and understand what that is, because it's critical. See, we got the simple interest on the left or compound interest on the right. So simple interest, I just need to clear my screen so I can see all of you wonderful people on the slide deck at the same time. Hold on. Okay, so simple interest is simply the interest you earn on the original principal every year. It never changes. So in this example, you have $15,000, or excuse me, $1,500, and you're earning 9% on that $1,500 for the next 50 years. So every year you get the same amount of interest credited to that $1,500. So it grows from $1,500 to just over $8,000. And that's it's 6-7 times the original principal, but it doesn't cut it. You're never going to retire on that story. But if you do compound interest, the difference with compound interest is that each time you get an interest credit, that credit is added to the original principal, and then the new interest for the next year is based on the original principal plus the previous interest that you earned the year before. So every year your principal increases and the interest earned on that money increases. So it's not that linear curve that I just showed you, it's this exponential, this sharp curve that goes up. So the money's the same. It earned 9%, and in each example it was still $1,500. But what would you rather have? Would you rather have $8,200 after 50 years? Or would you rather have almost $133,000 after 50 years? All right, that's a no-brainer. That's compound interest. And it works backwards too. It works with debt, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So here's an example of how this really works in real life. We're looking at someone contributing $178 to a savings plan. Now, what the savings plan is, it's irrelevant. We just want to save, right? And they're going to contribute $178 from age 25 to age 67. And then we're going to look at different rates of interest over that same period of time. So 67 is now typically the year in life that you can claim the most amount of Social Security. That's why we use 67. So 42 years of growth. So at 1%, your $178 monthly contribution for 42 years is going to turn into $111,000. Now, I did the math on what $178 is times 12 months times 42 years. It's just under $90,000. It's like 89,000 and change. So, earning 1%, you earned about $20,000, $22,000, something right in there. But if you just got 2% more interest, if you just got 3% interest total over that same period of time on average, you would have more than 50% more money, 61 to be exact, 61% more money than if you're earning 1%. And at 6% return, you've got nearly 4 times as much money as if you had at 1%. And then, of course, jumping to 9%, for your $89,000 investment over 42 years, now you have $1 million. That's the power of compound interest. Compound interest requires 2 things. It requires money and time and a reasonable expectation of a good return in regard to interest. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Okay, so that's the time value of money. And you know, there are 3 action steps, very simple. When you start,
George, so that is basically if you $778 a month.
$178 a month, yes.
Okay, so $178 each month for 42 years.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
between your age 26 and 66. So that brings you up, if you have it in an investment that gives you up to 9%, that gives up to $1 million.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And
And if I recall, $778, you can actually save that much by cutting away your coffee.
you can.
And using the money for your coffee, invest it, and then you really prepare for retirement. Or any other thing you think that you could do away with.
Well, when we get down to some personal coaching with clients, we take them through an exercise that helps couples examine their blow money, you know, their discretionary income. And let's face it, you know, we're all humans. We make mistakes, and we don't like to talk about our mistakes, right? And so, you know, we each have our own little kitty of money that we like to spend like we like to spend. And sometimes, you know, the husband looks the other way and the wife looks the other way and what the husband's spending, because neither of them want to give up control of that. And it's very difficult to have that conversation between the 2 parties, right? But when you look at it as a team and you start understanding how much that adds up every month, they just look at each other and go, gosh, it's a no-brainer. You know, I don't need to save all of it. I can save half of it. And that's still $200, $300, $400 a month. It's amazing how quickly that stuff adds up, especially when you add like a movie out or a dinner, you know, and drinks on the weekend, or lunch. Lunch is a great one, you know, pre-COVID. You just go out, and even if it's a fast food lunch, it's $10 a day, $50 a week, $200 a month. Why can't you pack your lunch and save more than half of that?
Amen. And there's a question, somebody texts a question, says, what kind of companies offer 9% interest, and how can they get started?
Well, so I don't want to make this a product, you know, seminar.
Yeah, we direct them on a personal note. I agree with you.
Yeah, but I can tell you that, you know, most middle-income American families, when it comes to the options for investment vehicles, they just don't know what they don't know. You know, they know savings accounts, they know CDs because that's what the banks talk to them about. They know mutual funds, and mutual funds are very volatile, but there's all sorts of other choices out there. But that's why you need a financial Sherpa. And, you know, that's a kind of a cute way of saying financial advisor, right? But really, the term Sherpa makes a lot more sense because, you know, if we all spend money, we all earn money, we all spend it. We know about bank loans and mortgage loans and credit card debt and car payments. We have a basic understanding of how all that works. Just like a mountain climber understands how to use ropes and crampons or whatever that, you know, all those tools and have the skill to climb a mountain. But you know what? When they go to climb Mount Everest, they don't do it alone. I don't care how many times they climb it, they always bring a Sherpa, a guide, to help them avoid the pitfalls that other people have made along the way. That's the key element here, that's the difference. It doesn't need to be me. Find somebody that you can relate to. Find somebody that you can trust. Find somebody that you can dialogue with, that is, got your back, that puts your needs ahead of their needs, which is not something my industry is famous for, quite honestly. And when you have that Sherpa, you should be able to call them, anytime and say, hey, Mary, I was thinking of doing this. What do you think? I got this great credit card offer. I get to transfer balances. What do you think? And they should anxiously want to respond and help guide you. It's that kind of long-term relationship that you should be looking for, and get it wherever you can. Long-winded answer, but I hope that helps.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so time, value, money, 3 steps. The best time to start is now. I don't care how old you are. The absolute best time to start, as you see a little bit down the road here, if I don't talk too long, is when you're a baby. Now, the baby doesn't know how to save, but some people around that baby who love and care for that baby might know how to save. And then save regularly. Small amounts over time add up to big money. And then just be patient. Just let it build. Let the compound effect happen. That's why you need to segregate it into a separate account, because if it never comes into your checking account, you tend to forget it over time. And then, 6 months later, you look in that account and it's like, oh my gosh, look how much money I've saved. What if I put in another $25 a month? What would that do? And so that's how small savers become big savers, because they see direct evidence of the value of saving. So starting early can make a big difference. I can read slides. Yay, George. Okay, but here's a great example. Here's Sarah and, my namesake, George. Sarah, and this is, the lesson here is start early. So Sarah started savings at age 22. She put away $333 a month for just 8 years, from age 22 to 30. She stopped. That's it. Done deal, right? So George, on the other hand, waited 8 years. When Sarah stopped, George started, contributed the same amount of money per month, $333, and he saved for the rest of his working years until age 67. They got the same interest credit on both accounts. Look who has more. Sarah saved a ton less and has over $100,000 more than George. That's how important starting early is. But don't make the mistake that, if I didn't start early, I can't do it at all. Not the case. The best time to start is right now. Wherever you are in life, start now, because it's the habit more than anything else. Once you form the habit, just like going to church, just like brushing your teeth, once you form the habit, it never leaves you. And you just keep doing a better and better job at it. So start now, right? Well, look at the age category on the left of this chart and find your approximate age. So if you want to have $1 million by age 67 in retirement, this tells you how much you need to start saving right now to get to $1 million. At some point, it becomes unbearable. You just can't do it unless you fall into the long lost uncle inheritance. At age 20, it's just $113 a month. That's crazy. And if you backed it up to 16, back in the day, you used to have a paper route. It might be $50 a month, $60 a month. Even kids can save $60 a month at 16 if they want to. And, a great tool for parents is, educate them. It's in the book. They're great pictures. Kids will love to read this stuff if they have any interest at all. But say, hey, I'll match you for every dollar you save. I'll match you $1 up to $50 a month. And millionaire overnight. The millionaire next door never knew it. But if you wait to age 30, it becomes $282 a month. At age 50, $2,000 a month. And at 60, who's got that kind of money, right? You just now you're working at Walmart. Not a good idea. So here's this $1 million baby concept I was telling you about. Now, if you, and I'm not suggesting that you go out and do this, right? It's just a real life example of how compound interest and starting early can really make a difference. Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to save for your own retirement? What if you had your own retirement locked down, right? Wouldn't it be great if you could skip a generation and save, start that $1 million fund for your granddaughter or grandson, or maybe, you know, you're young enough and you have a good paying job, you can actually do it for your children. But then when they get older, you task them to do the same thing with their children. We each pay forward the retirement for the next generation. We've got so much time on our hand, it's pennies on the dollar to build a retirement. So let's look at the option. Someone can leave $1 million inheritance when they pass for, let's just call it a grandchild. Or they can seed $1 million inheritance when that child is born. What's the likelihood that someone's going to have $1 million for each grandchild? It's probably a lot less likely than the opportunity to seed $1 million retirement fund for when a child is born. Because the reality is, as we get older, we're living longer, and there's a cost to living longer. It's called increased medical care. And with the advances in medical bills and science, and not medical bills, but science and technology in that field, the cost of maintaining, you know, a healthy life is not getting smaller, it's getting bigger. And that at some point, 70% of people over 65 need long-term care. And where's that money going to come from? Well, you know, it's going to come from your financial resources. So the reality is that you may like to leave $1 million inheritance for your grandchildren, but the money's just not going to be there because you or your spouse are going to need it. So let's look at the other option, creating $1 million investment fund for a child when they're either born or just a little bit later. And we've got two good examples here. Again, Dana and Hector. Dana, being the smart woman that she is, put away $13,000 at birth. You know, instead of having what are they called? You know, the baby shower. Have people just donate to your child's investment fund. Use that as the seed. So Dana started with $13,000 just one time when her daughter was born, okay? And it grew at a modest 6.5% tax deferred over the course of her daughter's life, 67 years. At 6.5%, it was worth $1 million. She turned $13,000, let the time value of money do all the heavy lifting, and now her daughter's got $1 million inheritance. Well, you say, you know, 67 years later, $1 million is not going to be worth what it is today. You're absolutely right. But it's a whole lot better than a sharp stick in the eye, right? So, and this is conservative. You know, if a few things went your way, it could be 2, 3, or 4 million. We don't know. But this, again, this is very, very doable. But let's look at what Hector did. Oh, let me backtrack here a second. What happens if she waited until 18, you know, when she had more money and she could put away that $13,000? Waiting 18 years and then doing the same thing takes that potential retirement fund from $1 million to less than a third of that, just $311,000. That's the time value of money. Those 18 years early on were lost. $689,000 were lost because just waiting that short period of time. Hector did it a little bit differently. He didn't have $13,000. He just did $2,500 when his son was born. And then every month for just 4 years, he paid $250 into the fund, same interest rate. He also had $1 million. But if he waited until 18, did the same thing, guess what? He gets the same results. Now his son only has $113,000 for his retirement. That's the time value loss in money. So that's a pretty interesting conundrum, isn't it? It's so easy when you start early. And there's a way to do this. You know, you don't need to go out and just kind of do it on your own. There are strategies in place that financial advisors know about that can make this happen for the people who you love in your life. Now, well, let's stop here. Any questions? All right.
Yeah, one question that I got was someone was asking that they'd like to have the book, but I'm not talking to you about that. So you could give me some books that I could send to them.
Absolutely. Well, you just, you know, I can give them to you, or because, you know, you're on one end of town, I'm on the other. If you want to give me addresses, I can just mail them out, get them out promptly. But whatever works, I'm happy to do that.
That's good. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, has anyone heard of the Rule of 72? I can't see any hands waving. Anyone familiar with that at all? Was that a yes?
No, a lot of people said no.
A lot of people said no? Okay. So you can Google this. It's real. It's all over the internet. It's a approximation of how money grows. And it was created by none other than Albert Einstein. He considered this the eighth wonder of the world. And as the story goes, he was more proud of the Rule of 72 than he was of his theory of relativity, E equals mc squared. And he was proud of it because it's so simple to understand the time value of money. The magic number is 72. So just like the slide shows, if you start with 72 and you divide 72 by the interest you're earning on your money, that equals the number of years it takes your money to double. So at 1%, it takes 72 years to turn $1,000 into $2,000. That's a long time to wait. So what happens if you earn 3%, 2% more? Well, the doubling goes from 72 years to 24 years. And you can see the progression there. If you can get 9%, it doubles every 8 years. So let's look at what that $1,000 then turns into. So let's see here. 8% is, 9% is 8 years. So year one, you have $1,000. Year 8, you have 2,000. Year 16, you have 4,000. Year 24, you have 8,000. Year 32, you have 16,000. Year 40, you've got $32,000. 64, 128, 256, 512, $500,000. All right. In the same amount of time, if you earned 1%, you'd only have $2,000. So any little incremental increase in the amount of interest that you can earn over the life of your savings makes a huge difference in the end. So, you know, when someone says, this account is returning 5% and you've been getting 3.5%, that's nothing to scoff at. Over time, that's big, just like it's big in your mortgage. You know, we refinance for 1%. It's the same thing working in the other direction. So here's the conundrum, and this should turn your stomach a little bit, okay? There's over $10 trillion, the last time we checked, sitting in national banks, in money market funds, passbook savings accounts, and they are earning less than 0.1%. And just look at the list. Do you bank with one of these folks? This is what you're getting credited in a savings account if you've got money in a savings account. So at 0.1%, your $1,000 wouldn't take 72 years to double. It would take 720 years. and here's exact number, 72 divided by 0.09%, 800 years to double. We're not even gonna be around. You know, that's just gone, right? And interest rate, not interest, but inflation right now, the historical average of inflation is about 2.8%. We're running about 1.5%. So even in this low level of national inflation, 1.9%, you're getting 0.1% interest on your money in savings. So you think you're not losing money, but you are. Every year you're losing money. Now, look at the bottom side. 17% is the average interest rate on credit cards offered by banks. And I would argue that that's probably a low number, right?
Yes.
17 to 28% is the spread typically, and most people are, 19 to 23%. And if you have bad credit, you're way up there at 28%. Well, here's what banks do, and it's all legal. They take your $1,000 that you have sitting in their savings accounts, nice and secure, losing money every year, and by law, they can lend that $1,000 out 9 times, meaning they can take that $1,000 and turn it into $9,000 of lending power. And then they lend it back to you and your friends and everyone else at 20-something% interest. Well, that's an infinite amount of return just based on interest rate alone, but it's an infinite amount of return because it's not even their money, it's your money. So typically folks have 3 relationships with a bank, and all these relationships are nurtured and encouraged by the banks, and they're needed, right? I mean, but if you understand how money works, then you become the master of that relationship, not B of A. And you master the accounts, not B of A. So the first thing you get is a credit card, or excuse me, a checking account, because you need a debit card, and that's just what we need to do these days, right? And then sometime later they come back and they say, hey, how would you like a savings account? It's free, you can earn interest. And you say, great, I need to save. So sign me up. It doesn't cost you anything, I'm gonna do it. And over time, you get $1,000 in there, right? And then they come back to you a little bit later and they say, hey, how about a credit card? You've been a really good customer and you need to establish your credit, right? So here's this credit card, it's free. And 2 or 3 years later, all of a sudden you've racked up $3,000 or $4,000 of revolving credit. So they're paying you 0.1% on your savings account, and they're charging you 20-something% on your $3,000 or $4,000 revolving credit. That's being a sucker with your money. And once you understand how the banks, whether they're intentional or unintentional, but taking advantage of you, that should be motivation to cut them off, to start to take control of your money. Now, 7 money milestones. Of the 7 money milestones, the first one is just learning how money works, which is what I've really given a quick overview on so far tonight. The other 6, and I'm going to zip through these because I want to end almost on time, are key. Now, they don't need to be done all at the same time. It's a journey. And some of these you may already be able to check off the list, right? Which is great for you. But don't think that this is overwhelming and you just need to get it all done in the next 30 days. You just got to start down that road. Proper protection. We're talking some form of insurance, life insurance, other insurances, to make sure that, when life happens, you don't get the rug pulled out from underneath you and your family crashes and burns. You need to build an emergency fund. A credit card is not an emergency fund. You need 3 to 6 months of saved emergency income. Not what you'd spend in good times every month, but what is necessary to keep the family going and the lights turned on and the bills paid without going into debt. That's an emergency fund. You need to manage debt. You need to get rid of the bad debt. You need to understand what good debt is and make sure that you're paying appropriate amount of interest on the debt that you have. It sounds a little bit overwhelming, but it's really not, especially when you have that Sherpa that you can check in with every now and then. Every time you call your Sherpa, the meter shouldn't be on, and they shouldn't make you feel beholding because you asked them a question, right? And then cash flow. That's positive cash flow, earning more than you spend every month. And when you have positive cash flow, that allows you to pay off old debt and allows you to build wealth. And building wealth, first it's the emergency fund, and then when your emergency fund is full, then that starts to overflow into honest to goodness, downright savings and investing. And that wealth accumulates, and we talked about how that happens and the impact of that over a working career. It is significant. And then the seventh is protecting that wealth, protecting it against invasion of things like taxes. And we'll just get into that a little bit here in the next couple slides. So that's the overview of what that looks like. So we covered financial education. This is the Sherpa concept, right? You can't do this alone. You shouldn't be expected to do it alone. It's not embarrassing to have help. And you know what? You should be teaching your kids as soon as they are aware of money in their lives. You know, when they go to the checkout and you know, they look to the left and they look to the right, and there's all that candy, and it's, Mama, I want this, I want that. You know, that's when they're aware of that, they can start learning money lessons. And we just need to feed them in a way that's appropriate for them to learn. Proper protection, and that's income against loss of income and against loss of savings, which is the first line of defense that we go to when we have loss of income. So, you know, how much protection should you need? Well, the rule of thumb is 10 times your annual family income. So if you earn $50,000 a year, that's $500,000. If you earn $1 million a year, $100,000 a year, that's $1 million of coverage. This is just a guide, okay? But even so, most people react adversely to that. Like, that's a lot of protection. You know, that's a typical reaction because you don't know what you don't know, and we'll get to that. But other factors that you need to take into consideration, and again, you know, you can't do this alone, at least not the first time. You got to take into consideration your age, your health. You know, if you're young and you're in good health, those are pluses. But if you're a little bit older or you've got some chronic issues, you need to factor that into the amount of life insurance, you know, that you would possibly need to cover the downside. You need to add in some debt, whatever debt you have. You need to figure out how your children play into this, you know, with potential college and other expenses, and, you know, what happens if you're not in the picture? How is all that going to work out? Who's going to raise the children? Where's the money going to come from? Which leads into, you know, what is your current economic or your current income situation? So, and then what if you own a business? You know, a growing business, whether it's young or old, always has debt. But if you're a principal or the owner, you know, all of a sudden you're gone, that could have catastrophic effects on the business that will just roll downhill to the family. And so those are all things to consider when you consider the amount and time of life insurance coverage that you need. Now, here's the interesting part. People underestimate how much life insurance they really need, but at the same time, they tend to overestimate how much life insurance will cost. And that's because they're not talking to anybody. This is kind of like the buzz, what they've heard, you know, and sometimes, you know, what you learn on the street should stay on the street. So consequently, only 59% of Americans have life insurance, and half of those people who have insurance are underinsured. They don't have enough to take care of the needs of their family. So that's a very precarious situation at best. There are two types of life insurance. There are temporary and permanent life insurance. And temporary is good. Now, this is a general statement, but it's good while you're younger and healthy. And as you get older, if you can transition into permanent life insurance, that'll take you through whatever needs that you might have as you go through the last half of your life. That's what you want. But term insurance is a protection for a specific period of time, like 10, 20, 30 years. and for a specific dollar amount, a level dollar amount every month for the period of that term. Once you reach the term, the coverage stops because that's the contract that you made. And the benefit is that it's inexpensive because it expires. It's crazy, but like I think the last statistic I heard was only 3% of term policies actually pay out because people outlive the term. But they need the protection because what if you're one of the 3%? So it's really a good deal. It makes sense. And especially, again, when you're young and you have lots of liabilities, lots of things to be responsible for. So term insurance covers things like raising kids, the mortgage on your house, the potential for paying for college, if you're not in the picture. And of course, like I mentioned before, the issues in running a company, should you not be there as its sole rudder to make sure that everything goes right. So what happens when the term ends? Well, there are two scenarios. You just no longer need it, so you just let it go. And in fact, term is great because this is an ironclad contract with a life insurance company. They agree that they will never raise your insurance rates for the period of the term. And as long as you make your monthly payment, you will be protected. You, on the other hand, what you get is the understanding that these rates are locked in for as long as that term is. They will never increase. They'll never go away as long as you make the payment. And should you not need it anymore, you can cancel that at any time. They can't cancel on you, but you can cancel on them, and you don't owe them a dime. Or if you think, say you have a 30-year term, you're 30 years old, it's going to take you to age 60. At age 50, you decide that you no longer need that much life insurance, so you cut it in half. Same policy, you just say, you know what, I don't need that other $250,000. I just want half of that. So, what they do, they cut it in half and they continue the policy. You pay less and you have less coverage, but you're in control of that. The other scenario is, that you come to the end of the term, but you didn't get everything done that you needed to get done, and you still need some protection. And so if you're healthy, you can just go out and reapply, start over, and get new insurance. But the problem with that is now you're older, and you may have some health conditions that don't make you uninsurable, but increase the cost of insurance. So you should expect that as you age, that the cost of that term insurance will increase. Just know it, all right? But maybe you got diabetes, or you have a heart condition, and that makes you uninsurable. So with pre-planning, you can fix that problem before it ever occurs, and it doesn't need to cost you a penny. So this is the financial X-wave. And on the left, the blue area, that's you when you're young. You got lots of responsibility, but you don't have very much money. So you get cheap term insurance, good quality, but inexpensive, to cover the potential shortfall should something happen for either you or your spouse. But as you move through life, you gain more wealth, and hopefully you have less responsibility. Your kids are grown up, they're on their own, your house is paid off or mostly paid off, and so you have less need for life insurance, and you have more wealth to cover any gap or shortfall. So you can see on the bottom, that where it says term sweet spot, starts on the far left, goes to just into the orange area or the gold area. Permanent insurance, however, is actually the best solution overall if you can afford it. And it is a little bit more expensive, but it's well worth it if it can be in the budget. And the reason it's worth it is because you are now covered for life, and you're still paying relatively small amount of premium for the insurance coverage when you're young. And they can't ever take it away, which is a good thing because it's a contract, and it's a contract written in your favor. So permanent life insurance you know, you can start that anywhere you want. The sooner you start it, the less expensive it is, and it goes to the end of life. And if you do it right, you can add on some great side protections. You know, it's protected. You know, life insurance, and guys have more of a problem with life insurance than women do, quite honestly, because it's all wrapped up in their ego, and they think life insurance is about them, but it's really not. You know, it's about who they leave behind and protecting, you know, what they would have done for their family had they been in the picture. What's going to happen, you know, with a one-income family? What's going to happen with the kids? It's a terrible burden to leave the rest of the family if there's no insurance in place and the husband dies. Women get it. They understand it. It's a no-brainer, you know, but it takes us a little bit longer. But, you know, smart guys do figure it out, and they do make the right decision. But now, see, the key with permanent life insurance is the insurance company understands that they're going to pay out one way or the other at one point or another. It's not like term insurance where only 3% of the policies pay out. That's why it's more expensive, because they know that eventually they're going to pay, right? But the cost of that insurance is carried by the life insurance side of the product pretty much solely. And then you can add these options either at no charge or at very little charge. You can have a long-term care option, which basically means if you need any kind of long-term care, nursing home, in-home care, they know that they're going to pay out that policy one way or another to you. So why not give it to you early when you really need it, should you want to use the benefit in that way? Well, if you were to get a standalone long-term care insurance policy, it's going to cost you $300, $400, $500 a month easy, and they can increase the rates on you whenever they want. And you may get to the end game, and you might be part of the 30% who didn't need long-term care, and then all those premiums you paid are lost. But if you could have that as an option and make the decision down the road, wouldn't that be the best thing for you? Permanent insurance also allows the opportunity to build significant cash value within the policy, and that is gold. I'll get into that in a little bit. And you get the basic life insurance coverage. So, you know, what can cash value do for you? Well, you can borrow out of it, and it doesn't cost you to borrow. If you need to finance your own car instead of using the finance company, if you want to take a vacation, I don't recommend using that money for that, but you could pay for a wedding. You know, a wedding happens a moment in time, and it's there and it's gone. So if you have the money, you can borrow it out and put it back in if you want, or not. It's up to you. But here are the powerful advantages of cash value within permanent life insurance. It grows tax-free. It's like a Roth 401, a Roth IRA. Once you put the money in, if you do it right, when you take it out, whether it's in a death benefit to your heirs or whether you take it out while you're living and use it like a retirement fund, you never have to pay tax on it. It's creditor-free. So if you ever sued in a civil situation, you know, that if you're a doctor and maybe a surgeon and someone sues you because they think you didn't do quite a good job, that money inside that policy can't be touched by your creditors. You can set it up so there's no potential for market loss. When the market's up, you gain. When the market's down, you don't lose. You don't make any money for that period of time, but you don't lose any money. And you can use it as a second source of retirement. You can meter it out just like Social Security, tax-free, to supplement your retirement fund. All good stuff. So, you know, just speeding through this, I talked about long-term care. Everyone's going to need it one way or the other. And if you don't have it, it's going to make life really miserable for you. And because, you know, you might have to make compromising decisions about the quality of your care, and it's going to make life miserable for the people you love. So if you can avoid it, do it. The cost of long-term care continues to increase. Adult daycare Annual median cost is $18,000. Home aid services, $50,000. Nursing home, $90,000. A private room in a nursing home, $100,000 a year. Close to $400,000 over the average stay of just under 4 years. That's crazy, you know? And so if you can pre-plan for that and not pay a lot for it, why wouldn't you do that? So, you know, you can do that standalone policy like I talked about, but you know, it's just really expensive. But if you can combine it kind of like a Swiss Army knife approach, one tool to check a whole lot of boxes for financial security, why wouldn't you take a look at that and implement that for your family? And it comes with free benefits too, like a critical illness rider. You know, if a heart attack really gets you down, or a stroke, or you get cancer, it has the opportunity to pay out. Chronic illness like ALS and diabetes and Alzheimer's, it pays out there too. You know, so there's all sorts of options if you only knew that they were there. The emergency fund, we covered that 3 to 6 months, not of a generous lifestyle, but when you add up what you really need to make the household run, cutting all unnecessary expenses, that's what a 3 to 6 month fund should be. Once you get to 6 months, well, first of all, when you get to 3 months, you can take a breath, you did it, you're good. Somebody loses their job, you got 3 months. You can relax. You don't have to take the first job that comes along. You can cherry pick and use the opportunity for change in your life to improve your situation, as opposed to just taking the next best thing, because you got a gun to your back and you got to get income into the family. Once you get to 6 months, now all that money just goes into building wealth. Here's just some numbers on emergency fund. We don't need to spend any time on that. Debt management, you just got to change your spending habits and strive to eliminate debt. Well, a Sherpa will help you do that. If that's a black hole for you, don't worry. A Sherpa can help you do that. They'll analyze it. It's not brain surgery. It doesn't take a lot of time. You just got to get it done. So here's a couple tips to stay out of debt forever. Figure out what you owe. Know it, write it down. You know, there's a magic connection between writing something down on paper and connecting it to your subconscious. You can't just look at you know, a balance, a checking account balance, or a credit card balance on your phone and go, okay, yeah, I got it. When you write it down, you make a list, all of a sudden it becomes real. And now it becomes a manageable problem that your subconscious goes to work on and tries to solve. Eliminate late payments. You know, on a credit card, you can set up minimum auto payments. Do that, not because you want to make minimum payments all the way through life, but because it avoids a late charge. So on top of that automatic minimum payment, you still make a mandatory monthly contribution to reduce the principal. Get rid of debt. Just target one at a time. Again, you know, don't pay a little bit on every card because you don't see any progress, because there is no progress. There's a methodology to that. So we can teach you that. A Sherpa can teach you that. Somebody can teach you that. And you've got all these subscriptions. Some people don't even know what the subscriptions they have. They're not using them anymore, and they continue to get debited on their account, and they don't look at their account, and money just goes out the door. And then, you know, 2 other things. Refinancing your mortgage. How do you know when it's right to refinance your mortgage? Well, you know, you ask someone who knows about how money works, right? And are you paying too much for your auto and home insurance? You know, how much is too much? Well, someone who's looked at a lot of costs in that area would be able to tell you that, but you may not. But even if you want to do it, there's a system that will allow you to figure that out. I can't go into it now, but I'm happy to share it in another, you know, teaching event. And all that adds to increased cash flow at the end of the month, which goes into building wealth. So sticking to a budget, you develop a game plan, you shave little bits on all sorts of things like what I talked about, car and home insurance. You reposition savings so you're actually earning something on your money. And, you know, there's this private mortgage insurance. So as soon as you get 20% equity in your home, that's a trigger to look at refinancing to eliminate that cost. It's amazing. More private mortgage insurance, even a smaller home, it's like $150 to $200 a month. as part of your monthly mortgage. And people just don't understand it. And especially in this rising equity market, you may be sitting on, 30, 40, 50% equity if you own a home and you're still paying mortgage insurance. Well, let's get rid of that. Let's put that difference in your cash flow, which is building wealth. So what happens if you do all that and you're still struggling? Well, you got to be focused and you got to have a plan. And quite honestly, you just got to work harder until you get it all in balance. So it's okay to get a side gig. It's okay to drive for Uber. It's okay to deliver, groceries. It's on your time. It's whatever you need to do. Or maybe you have a business. An internet business when done right, can be totally inexpensive. Very, very low fixed costs. And that would be another way to if you could put another $500 or $1,000 in your pocket each month, that's a huge difference. Often the times, the difference between people filing for bankruptcy and not filing for bankruptcy is $500 a month. So, even small amounts added on a regular basis to your income make a huge difference. And then adjusting W-2 allowances, how many of us love to get a tax refund at the end of the year? I mean, we intentionally have more pulled out just so we can have that little kitty at the end. And then what do we do with it? We go spend it, right? We don't even pay down debt. We just go put a down payment on a new car or take a vacation, pay off Christmas presents that we put on a credit card. We do all sorts of crazy things, but we don't spend it. So, you can adjust your W-2 allowances so that it's more in line with what they really should be taking out. So you're not giving the government a free loan. And then you can take and divert that money in every check, that little bit, $50, that $30, that $80 a paycheck, and you just direct it right into savings. That's how you build savings. That's how you build wealth. So, oh my gosh, we're just, we need to end this. I'm sorry, I talked too much.
It's all right. We can schedule another meeting. Where's my phone?
Yeah. So, these are all good points,
Okay. Yeah.
Let me just see if there's something. Here's something important. If you got $1,000, so the market, Wall Street, the Dow Jones, the S&P, in 2000, that was the dot-com bust. The market lost 50%. It did it again in the real estate bust of 2007, 2008, lost 50%. So if you had $1,000 in the market and it lost 50%, I'm not going to make you guess. What did you have left? $500, right? You lost 50% of 1,000. Well, let's just use an example. I'm silly me. You had 10,000. You lost 50%. What do you have left? Well, you have 5,000.
Yeah.
So the question that you ask is, how much do you have to gain in order to get back to the $10,000? Okay, without seeing the graphic, most people would say, "Oh, I lost 50%. I got to gain 50%." Wrong answer. You have to earn 100%. You have that 5,000. You have to double that. So you have to earn 100% just to get back to normal, right? So markets drop quickly, come back slowly. So what's the lesson? You want to protect yourself against the impact of losses. The best money that you have ever earned is the money that you have never lost. And there are ways that you can do that with your money, and you just don't know what you don't know again.
That's great.
And the impact of taxes is huge. You can pay taxes now and avoid taxation in the future when you have no idea what the rate of taxation will be. I know it's going to be large because historically, this is the lowest tax rate Americans have ever seen. It's so low that we're going into national debt just to keep low taxes. But we got this huge bulging national debt that's going to get paid for. And you got very few people who are paying into Social Security based on the compared to the ones who are taking out. All that's going to blow up at some point and increase taxes and lower benefits for Social Security. So if you want to keep more money in your retirement, if you want to pay less money to the government, if you want to leave more money to your kids, you got to include the impact of taxes in your planning. 3 ways: tax now, tax later, tax never. I'm in favor of taxing never, and we go into that.
What would, yeah, Judge,
Yeah.
what I suggest we do, let's absorb some of this information, and we're going to set up another meeting. Let me talk with the church, because this area you're going into is very, very important. I don't want to rush it, and we lose it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so at least let them chew on what we heard, and then I see what feedback we get from it. But then we will bring you back again to continue. But those are good information.
Excellent. And I appreciate your patience with me. I know I'm a bit chatty. I tried to be as detailed as possible without going on too much.
No, that's what we want. That's what, I've got some of them are a lot of comments here. It's a great information, lots of work to do. Thank you, Judge. God bless you. So they're responding on the chat, so they're enjoying it. So, but what I want to do is, you're going into a very good area. What do we do to begin to manage this? So I just don't want to pile it on top of what they already absorb already. So what we do is, we're going to bring you back again. But very good information, very, very good information. I appreciate it. Now, anyone got question, comment before we close?
Yes.
Sure. So Wilson has my contact information. It would probably make sense for him to give that to you so that, he can keep an eye on things.
Sure. There's a question here. Go ahead, Amy.
That was it. How do we get a hold of George?
Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, what I would do is have his information. I'll make it available to you guys.
Wilson, do you want me to put something in the chat? I might have it easily done.
Yeah, okay. You can put it there. Yeah, sure.
Let's see if this works here.
Anyone else has a question, comments?
No, just thank you, George.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
That was a lot of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we appreciate your time for sure, definitely.
Yes, we do.
It was fun. You got to have a passion for what you do. I spent 25 plus years in the printing industry as a business owner, and this is so much more rewarding, less stress, and so much more rewarding. So I've got my contact information there. Feel free to shoot any questions, anything you want. I'm here for you.
All right.
Do you need anything else from me, Wilson, or should I exit while you continue with your meeting?
No, that's it. Any more comment? Anyone else has question or comment? All right.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was a great pleasure.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thank you.
All right.
Enjoy it.
Bye-bye.
Be in touch. Yes.
Oh, I'm it says end meeting for all. I don't want to do that. You should take back control.
Yeah, let me move it back to myself. Let's see, how do we do this? Okay, look on that. Look at my name and okay, look under me and then send it back to me.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. Oh, there you go. There's Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay. Just give me time. I'm working on it.
Click on it. Say more. If you put on by the video.
Make. Oh gosh, my fingers just are not working here. Make host. Yes, I do. Okay, I think you're the host.
Yep. Back.
All right. And now I'm saying goodbye. So long.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Well, praise the Lord. I hope. What do you think? Is that helpful?
Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, very helpful. It was like I told him a lot of information, but I wish this was something that we would have known a long time ago.
Okay, say something. You want to say something?
No.
Okay. All right. Someone else got a comment?
Thank you, Pastor. Very helpful information, and we can use it to ourselves or use it our kids. So that's really good.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you guys enjoy. I think it's very helpful. Like the Bible said, money answereth all things. So whatever that we can do to manage ourselves better will help us to manage our home
Amen.
and be at peace.
Amen.
Because money do create a lot of stress. But we're gonna thank you for your patience. We're gonna pray and end the class, and I'll see you Sunday. Father, in the name of Jesus, thank you for the opportunity to also learn some practical steps that we could take to begin to manage ourselves, our finances, and be in control. So we're not always a slave or be armed by our needs and wants, but that we'll be in control of it and be able to handle our affairs better. So thank you, Lord, and I pray that you continue to help us as a church family, as individuals, to apply ourselves to wisdom. Teach our children the right way, so that we all can benefit from it. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you for coming, participating. God bless
Thank you, Pastor.
Yes, thank you. Everybody
Nice
have a good night.
family.
All
We'll
right.
see you Sunday, everyone. God bless you.
Bless you too.